Hello and welcome again to the official EFL podcast as we look back at the most thrilling end to the regular Sky Bet Championship season ever. Leeds were crowned champions over the weekend, of course, and lifted the trophy for the first time since 1992. We'll talk more about them later in the show, but elsewhere, everything, and I mean everything, is still to play for.
It's on the move though, it's ball. And now Ryan Manning takes a touch. It's Manning again! Queen's Park Rangers have shaken the Hawthorns to its foundations. A little waiting, one of them's more, and this time it will count. Huge goal for Wigan, the biggest of their survival fight so far.
By Janssen, but only to Styles, who struck it so well. And Barnsley are refusing to go quietly from the Championship. And the three teams chasing automatic promotion are all failing miserably at the moment.
Robinson. There's Grady Diangana. That's what West Bromwich Albion needed. Pressure lifted. Cabano, and it's 1-1. A heartbreaker for Wigan. But Fulham back in business. Diangana has found a way through and delivered a wonderful ball, and it's tapped home. Callum Robinson. Fallen Premier League clubs can't get trapped in this league, but West Bromwich Albion could be finding an escape route.
Blocked by Ludovic, I think. But they have got their equaliser, Brentford. Josh De Silva fires in a cracker, and they're not giving up yet on automatic promotion to the Premier League.
Tabiri Eze, who's running behind O'Shea. Eze! That is spectacular! That is Abire Eze! The touch of a Premier League player in waiting.
It's Barnsley's turn to go in search of a winner that might well keep them up. Woodrow sends it across, and it's put away! Extraordinary! Adoa has scored in injury time, and Barnsley have given themselves a fighting chance of staying up here.
Wigan have run out of time. It is perhaps the one occasion where truly a set of players didn't deserve to go down. Despite all their hard work, Wigan's points deduction kicks in and they drop into the bottom three.
West Bromwich Albion have done it! They are back in the Premier League!
What a season, what a league. I know you asked me that, and I was very vocal when I always said that I would like to manage in a championship because it's like special league, difficult league. I couldn't imagine. Yeah, I loved it, but I couldn't imagine it's this difficult.
Yeah, I think this is a special feeling right now.
I can see the emotion in your eyes. I mean, take a moment. I think you're...
I have so big heart for my boys. Sorry, I have...
No.
The moment I have
no,
no
please
words.
take a moment. It's a special, special moment.
We worked so hard for this the last few months. And I always believe in that we can stay in the league. And now it's reality. I am so happy, I am so proud with my boys.
No, it's only as you can imagine. It's a group of people who are absolutely devastated. You know, as you can imagine, they've been dealt a really cruel hand. You know, and they really had the belief that they could overturn their 12 points and, you know, still stay up. You know, tonight was a night. It was always going to be tough against a good Fulham side. You know, excellent players all over the pitch. But as per normal, he didn't leave a breath on the pitch. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the football club, how we've reacted to the adversity. You know, everyone connected with Wigan Athletics should be proud of what they've done in the last few weeks because they've maintained all the dignity. The players have played with pride, and it's been representing the town in a correct and proper way. You know, so while as we're disappointed as we are, we certainly congratulate some of the other teams that stayed up, especially Barnsley. So they're really special moments, and to score as late as they did and to stay up when they've been written off, it's a great night for them, and congratulations from us.
So to discuss all the drama last night with me is Joby McAnuff. Have you recovered from watching that? I know you did all the games for Sky last night, but it must have been tiring just to even watch them.
It was. You could see in the players afterwards, Carl Bartley's interview, he was just emotionally, physically drained. Same with Slaven Bilic. You could see the relief on his face. And again, sitting there watching all the different permutations, who was doing what position, what team was in at various parts of the night. It certainly was. It was quite difficult to keep up with at times. But absolutely incredible finish to the season. Certainly for any of us who were from a neutral standpoint, it was certainly an enjoyable night. It would be for the ones that achieved their goals, but also, massive, massive disappointments for a lot of the teams that were involved in it last night as well.
Yeah, the highs and lows of football, of course. But if I'd have said to you this time last week that 1 point out of Huddersfield and QPR would have been enough for West Brom to go up, what would you have said?
I would have said you were mad, first and foremost. I would have said that there were 2 games that you'd probably want to get yourself over the line. Of course, they haven't been in good form since the restart, certainly comparable to teams in and around them. But I still felt, you're going to go and get at least probably 4 points from those 2 games that I felt probably could have got you over the line. But, to do it with 1, is just incredible. And I think, the teams around, and particularly Brentford, with the run that they were on, really be kicking themselves this morning. But you also have to look at the bigger perspective over the course of the season. For me, West Brom have fully deserved that place. And it's not about how you do it sometimes. It's just about doing it. And, they managed to get over the line, and fair play to them.
Yeah, no, they've obviously faltered a little bit since the restart, but like you mentioned, they have been in the top 2 most of the season. How difficult would it have been for them to miss out on that final day? That would have been a bitter pill to swallow. Yeah,
I think they would have really struggled. I think psychologically, being the team that has been in that top 2, coming off the break, they had 10 points on Brentford, coming back from the restart. So to have seen that evaporate and see Brentford go up, I think would have been a real blow for them that they would have struggled to get over. Certainly from a player's point of view, you'd just be looking back and thinking, that should be us, we should be up. And then to get yourself up again for a game that you feel you shouldn't even be having to play, particularly against sides that are coming in good form, which, the 5th and 6th place teams now, have got that momentum. I think it would have been very, very difficult for them. So listen, I'm sure everyone at that football club's very, very relieved this morning. But again, I have to reiterate, over the course of the season, I do feel they fully deserve that automatic spot.
I think we saw the relief in Kyle Bartley's interview after the game. So congratulations to West Brom, of course. But do you think Brentford's players felt the pressure when it was in their hands? No experience of being in that situation at all, of course, throughout the season. And they obviously had the game against Stoke where they could have overtaken West Brom.
Yeah, undoubtedly. We've spoken about it numerous times. When we're doing the games, it's a completely different mindset. When you're coming out of that restart as the chaser, Brentford had nothing to lose. It was still an uphill task for them to get anywhere near West Brom at that stage. And all they had to do is go out and win games. They pretty much knew they were going to be in the playoffs. Whether they could get close enough, nobody knew at that stage. And as the games ticked over and the results kept coming, they get closer. For me, I felt genuinely after West Brom lost that it was there for the taking for Brentford. But it shows what that pressure does to players. And they just couldn't quite get themselves together when it really, really mattered. And again, I think that will be a big, big frustration for everyone involved. They've done fantastic to even be in with a shot. Let's not underestimate that level of performance that they put in to give themselves a chance. But to fall so close to the end will be a huge disappointment, I'm sure.
8 out of 10. Wins in the last 10 games, for Brentford. Still an incredible achievement. But we have to speak about Barnsley as well. Another injury time winner for them, this time at Griffin Park, of all places. Sees them stay up pending Wigan's appeal, of course. We heard the emotion in Gerhard Struber's voice after the game last night. They really have done something special, haven't they?
Absolutely magnificent. I can't speak highly enough of Gerhard Struber. And for me, I love that after the game, seeing that emotion, what it means to him, what it means to that football club, the work that he's obviously put in with those players. He kept talking about my boys and we, and the togetherness is so evident and so clear. There's no way they could have got out of that situation without, that unity and that team spirit. So to see it all pour out of him after was, something I love, because that's what it means, to everyone that's involved in football day to day, but particularly when you overcome the odds that they were up against. They were miles off it for me, dead certs to go down, really. Certainly second half of the season, restart, they're up against it, smallest budget in the league. So to pull off that is just incredible. Again, you spoke about West Brom's running and it being favourable. I mean, Barnsley, Leeds, Forest, and then last night away to Brentford to get the points that they need. They played really well against Leeds, could have got something, didn't let it affect them. Last minute winner against Forest, and then again to come late last night. To take 6 points from those last two games, for me, they fully deserve that result and managing to stay up. Again, it's difficult, so much other things going on around you, different teams doing different things, but he said there was a clear focus to what they were doing, and the scenes after, again, with all the players were fantastic. So real credit, fair play to him. An incredible achievement to keep them up.
You mentioned the final two games there. I'm guessing the fact that people, like yourself, the pundits gave them no chance whatsoever of staying up based on that. I'm guessing that will have been part of their motivation, though, behind the scenes.
Of course, you use anything you can. It might be a comment, from a pundit. It might be, other managers. Anything you can use to create that motivation, to create that drive within a group, you have to use it, particularly when you're down there. And you can kind of create an environment, an atmosphere, sort of you against the world mentality, which I'm sure again they would have had in that camp. And the thing I love about it, it never got to the point where they felt they couldn't do it. They always remained positive, and to come good at the right time is, again, a huge testament to the belief that he has in those players, but clearly they have in him as well. And it was, again, brilliant to see.
Huge testament has to go to Luton as well, and Nathan Jones, another incredible achievement for him. A 3-2 win against Blackburn, securing their safety. He really does know how to get the best out of that squad, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I think sometimes in football, things just fit. And I think Nathan Jones and Luton are one of those scenarios for me where, he did an incredible job first time around, with the promotions, getting them going up the leagues, good football played as well, again, on a small budget compared to a lot of the other teams that they're up and against. Of course, he went off a big move, I'm sure, for him at the time, didn't quite work out anywhere near as well as he would have liked to have done, and to get the opportunity to go back, it was a brave decision, in my opinion, to go back in a situation that they were in. It's not as if, they were either already down or, it's the next season and he's got a fresh start there. He's had to go back in real difficult circumstances, and, to go around and produce that turnaround, clearly it does help. He knows some of the players there, they know him, so he hasn't had that time where he's had to bed new things in. It is a matter of, I'm sure that was in the thinking of everyone at Luton and getting him back in there to try and have that immediate impact. And again, for me, they were odds on, heavily odds on to go down with Barnsley. So two miracle great escapes, and again, nothing but praise and credit should go to Nathan Jones and that squad of players.
Yeah, I think the Luton fans will have forgiven him for leaving in the first place after that. But now let's talk about probably the most dramatic turnaround last night, the battle for the playoffs. I didn't even have them in the picture to miss out the last time I spoke to you, but somehow Nottingham Forest knocked out of the playoffs after a 6-goal swing in favour of Swansea. How devastated will that Forest squad be after that?
Oh, they'll be on the floor this morning, I'm sure. That is just one I don't think anyone saw coming. You see situations like that come up so often where, it's a big swing needed. I mean, 6 goals over one match, or 2 matches, obviously, each team. But, you just couldn't write it. You're seeing the goals go in, in both games, and you're thinking, hang on, you know, the goal difference is starting to close up a little bit. Surely they can't concede another one, or Swansea can't score another one. And again, as the night went on, it just seemed inevitable that they just couldn't control what was happening in their game, and clearly not in the other game. So, you know, for a team that's been so entrenched in that playoff picture this season, you know, they've had a really good year. And again, let's try and keep a bit of perspective for their overall season. You know, they were good for the vast majority of it. To fall out by, you're talking about a goal or two, is just, you know, heartbreaking, really. And, you know, there'll be some serious questions there, I think, this morning and moving forward.
Will it be, say, like the equivalent of losing a playoff, you know, final, essentially? Going out in that manner was just so unexpected, of course.
Yeah, you know what, I think it's worse though, because you know, at least having got to the playoffs, you know, you've achieved that first goal, that first step. That, you know, clearly that was the ambition once they got themselves into the position they were in. So this is almost like it's just been snatched away from you at the very last moment, before they've even got that opportunity that they will feel they deserve based on what they've done throughout the season. But again, listen, it comes down to what you do over 46 games. You know, I'm a big believer in, you know, every goal counts, you know, every point counts. I've made playoffs by a goal. I've lost out on playoffs by a point. So over the course of a season, it is those real fine margins, fine details. And it's easy to look at last night. Of course it is, but there will be so many other opportunities that they've missed this year to pick up that extra point that would have got them in. And again, it just shows the real fine margins there are between success and failure at top level, really.
Let's talk about the success for Swansea, though. How much confidence will they have now going into Sunday's game against Brentford, going into on the manner of a victory like that, in the circumstances like that?
Be absolutely flying this morning. You know, you could see Steve Cooper last night, you know, really got caught up in the emotions, which he would do. And then he was very quick to sort of rein it in and say, listen, we've still got, you know, work to do. But you've got to use that momentum. You've got to use that enthusiasm, you know, ride the wave, I would call it, you know, that adrenaline that's going to be pumping around, you know, that stadium, that training ground the next time they're in. And, you know, we talk about it all the time. The momentum coming into the playoffs is massive. Again, they were a real outside bet, you know, a few games ago. So to have got themselves in it now, I personally think they'll be looking at it as, you know, we've got nothing to lose. We'll go out there. The pressure's not going to be on them. The pressure for me very much is with Brentford, is with Fulham, the teams that have been in there for all that time and that have had opportunities to potentially go up automatically. So, you know, they're going to be a dangerous team. You know, again, their form's been very, very good of late. They're carrying good form in. So it's going to be a real difficult one. They've got players that have hit form at the right time, real nice mix, you know, of experience and youth. And he's certainly got them going. So they're going to be a real team to contend with once those playoffs start.
You talk about that experience. Wayne Routledge, of course, rolling back the years for them last night. But Ryan Brewster, the youth in that side, in such good form for them as well. Is he the man that Brentford will have to fear most? He got his 10th goal of the season last night. He only came in January.
Yeah, he's done fantastic. You know, and I think for any team that wants to get into those playoff places, they need a goal scorer. And certainly in January, by bringing him in, you know, that's been a massive, massive boost for them. I think they missed that during parts of this season, and he seems to just give them that little edge, you know, that they can finish off moves, finish off games. When you've got someone in such hot form like he is, sometimes you only need one chance, two chances a game, and, you know, he's going to stick them away. So, you know, that would be massive. I'm sure Brentford will be doing their homework, you know, watching what he's been doing, and trying to make sure that there's a plan to look after him. And obviously from Swansea's point of view, it's just trying to get him in the areas, as he has been doing recently, to stick the ball in the net. So, you know, he's going to be a big, big threat, you know, coming into it. Again, for a young boy coming away from his club, going out to get football, again, that's something I love to see. So, you know, I really commend him for getting himself out and going to cut his teeth and show people that he can score goals, you know, outside of that environment that he's normally in.
Can score goals from all over the place as well, as we saw last night. An incredible effort from outside the box. But surprisingly, Brentford come into the playoffs as well on the back of 2 defeats. They weren't fearing anyone just a week ago. Has that now changed?
I think you'd have to say yes. I mean, to see the form they were in, you know, absolutely flying, just winning games, you know, left, right and centre, to then have a 2-game losing little mini run at the back end of a season, it's not where you want to be heading into those playoffs. You know, you're going to be disappointed. There's going to be players thinking what could have been. But I must say, Thomas Frank's really impressed me this year. He's stayed very calm. You know, he hasn't got carried away, whether it be at the start of the season when he didn't have a particularly good start, or recently when they've been flying. He seems to be a very level-headed guy. And I think that will really help them just to readjust. You know, again, he spoke recently about even just having the opportunity to get into second place, which was a great achievement for them. So I'm sure he'll be reinforcing that. Listen, it hasn't quite happened, but let's dust ourselves down. We're still a very good team. You know, they've still got a huge amount of threat within that team. They had been very, very solid, again, up until the last couple of games and hadn't conceded many. So I think if they can get back to that with their attacking force, you know, for me, they're still the favourites to get through that semi. Yeah,
I think you saw the level-headedness of Thomas Frank after the game against Barnsley last night, where he came out and basically just said that's the championship. But your former team, Cardiff, cruised into the top 6 in the end. They take on Fulham, who beat them just a few weeks ago, though. Will that be in those players' minds still? And will it be a hindrance or will it be a motivation for them?
It'll be a motivation, no doubt about it. You know, and also playing somebody so recently, you know, when you're analysing games, when you're breaking down what went well, what didn't went well. If this was 4 months ago, then things do change in that time. But what they would have seen a couple of weeks ago at Fulham is what they're going to see, you know, when the playoffs come around. So I'm sure everyone behind the scenes will be picking the bones out of that. You know, what didn't we do so well? What can we do better? How can we hurt them? To come up with a game plan. Of course, it's different. It's 2 games and it's a different mindset going into the playoffs than it would be in a normal league game. So for me, you know, Cardiff will, I'm sure, for that first leg, be wanting to keep things as tight as possible. You know, certainly not letting Fulham get off to a good start. They've had a fantastic away record since Neil Harris has come in. I think that's something that over the 2 legs, if they can get to Craven Cottage in good shape after the first game, then again, I think they'd quite fancy themselves of going and turning them over, given that the pressure is very, very much on Fulham to get promoted.
You've already touched on this, but I know that Cardiff obviously went down from the Premier League last year, but is it fair to say that Fulham and Brentford are under most pressure to perform now after the seasons that they've had?
Yeah, for me, Fulham have carried that burden the whole season, you know, and I think Scott Parker's done a fantastic job. I really do. I've spoken about it, you know, in previous pods and different environments. You know, he's been under pressure from day one. You know, it's that you look at the squad, automatically people say they should be going up, but it's not as simple as that. You know, he's a young manager, you know, finding his way, learning on the job, you know, and I think he has improved. He's developed himself this season, you know, with his mentality and what he expects from that team. They lost the first 2, you know, once the restart kicked off. And a lot of people might have thought they could just slip away a little bit and maybe not come into playoffs in good form, but they've really got themselves together. He seems to have galvanized them, you know, got them stronger, really difficult to beat. You know, they got back to scoring goals again against Sheffield Wednesday, obviously conceded a few, but again, with the attacking threat that they pose, they're going to be a very, very difficult opponent to face. And for me, out of the 4 teams, they'd probably be my favourites to go up. I wouldn't want to be playing Cardiff, especially in the form that they're in, and almost gate crashing that top 6. And they'll be a real difficult opponent to come up against. But I just got a feeling that Fulham, you know, for me, are the favourites slightly.
You say Fulham are your favourites. Who do you see in the final out of this? Do you see it being a Fulham-Brentford final? Because obviously a South Wales derby would be something special as well.
Yeah, either way, you know, it's going to be, you know, a massive game, as it always is. But certainly if it was going to be a South Wales derby or, you know, a West London derby, it just adds to the occasion. So, again, for me, I would have to say that, yeah, Fulham and Brentford would be my favourites. But listen, this is playoff football. Again, you know, it's about who turns up, who can execute, you know, who doesn't get affected by that pressure that we've seen Brentford be affected by in the last couple of games. So is that going to have a bearing? Is that going to have an impact? And will the mentality of Cardiff and Swansea almost coming late really help them, which in a lot of cases over the years we've seen it does. So it's not as straightforward. We only have to look at last night. We only have to look at the results since the restart to know that this isn't going to be a simple, you know, 3rd and 4th place, beat the 5th and 6th place, and that's it. There's going to be a lot more frills and spills, and, you know, I for one can't wait for the playoffs now.
Yeah, special end to the regular season, and, you know, an exciting end, obviously, as usual with the playoffs. Joby, thanks for your time this week.
Pleasure. Nice.
Run on the left, a typical run, the long cross, Lorimer's header, down to Jones who put it in for number 7.
Great trying to get up there, great picking it up in the field. And a good one. It's there, right in the middle of the goal.
Lorimer forms in support. What a goal!
Now McAllister back from Strachan, here's Strachan again!
Have you ever seen a better goal?
The League Championship for Leeds United.
It's Jermaine Beckford, chance for Bradley Johnson now. Johnson right to the cross goal. Beckford! Yes! Jermaine Beckford puts Leeds into dreamland.
Alioski's ball. El Mohammadi's header. Roof wins it right at the very last. Mason Mount, Keogh again, oh, and a chance for Maria once more, he's done it! Devastation for Leeds United, who have been magnificent all season. It's Hernandez, he's a magician. Little ball for Ayling, it's in! Birmingham 4, Leeds 5. A spectacular strike from the fullback. The Leeds United machine is rolling again. Destination Premier League. Here's Ayling, and he cuts it back. It's Hernandez. He has done it. And Leeds are on the brink of the big time again. Return to the Premier League is over for Leeds. We are so proud. We shall win, and what we love you is.
Now joining me is the last man to guide Leeds to promotion, Simon Grayson. Just explain to me, as a Leeds man, what does it mean to see the club back in the Premier League?
Well, I think it's been a long time coming, and no club has got the divine right to go back to the next division above. But when you look at the football club, it's gone through a lot of dark times. So to embrace this positive stage of where they are as a city, a football club, ownership, it's a fantastic feeling. I think when you look over the last period of time, I think this period of time now is all about a relief that they've managed to get there. Because really, apart from last year when they fell away in the playoffs, there hasn't been too many opportunities that they've thought we've got a chance of going back to the Premier League. But with some stability, with the owners and obviously an outstanding coach, it means the world to them supporters who've gone through a lot of dark times, as I mentioned.
From your experience, though, what will it be like, in that changing room at the minute? Describe the emotion when you achieve something like that.
When you start pre-season, you've obviously got big plans of what's going to happen throughout the course of the season. You work hard on the training pitch. You're going to have the roller coaster ride of ups and downs. So I think when you finish the season and you've achieved promotion, it's one of relief because it's what you've achieved, what you set out to do when you went back for the start of the season. But ultimately as well, when you're connected with the football club, you can be very proud of that achievement. You can be in there and think, I've given something back to this famous football club. We are, as a group of players, staff, going to be held in so much high regard now. They go down in folklore history at Leeds United. And because it's been such a long time coming, then it's even more special because I think there's a connection with this group of players and the manager and the owner with the supporters that they feel the bad times and they've got to embrace the great period of time that they've gone through over the last few days.
You say it's been a long time coming. It's been a very long season as well. What has been the key to Leeds' success, though, throughout that campaign?
I think they've just been very consistent. I think they've always played in the same manner. They've tried to always dominate the possession of the ball. They've tried to take the game to the opposition. And I think when you look at them, they've learned from last year. They've learned from the disappointment. And that's been a big key because it is difficult sometimes to go again after you miss out after disappointment of the previous season and a huge expectancy level that there is at Leeds United. So full credit to them that they've had that resilience about them, they've had that togetherness about them, and they've not gone away from what Marcelo Bielsa has wanted them to do, and that is dominate possession, entertain, score goals, and they've had that bit more of resilience, I'll use that word, in terms of seeing games out when it's been tough for them.
You touched on this, but has one of the key things that they didn't change their approach from last year, that they carried on the way that they were playing at the start of this season to the end?
Well, I think you realise with Bielsa, he's not going to change his ideas and philosophies. He's too long in the tooth to do that. I think what he'll have done, he will have learned from last season as well about himself, what the Championship is about, what the football club and his players as well. I think they've recruited really well in the summer by getting Harrison back, and then Ben White has been an absolute revelation. So I think if you put all them factors together, then starting the season as well in a positive manner, no hangover from the previous disappointment, that it was all rolling in the one direction of promotion.
Yeah, and out of all the things that Bielsa has done, though, what has impressed you the most since he's been manager of Leeds? Obviously, people wax lyrical about his methods.
Well, I think everybody can see how well they played, pass the ball through the thirds. There's obviously time on the training ground, coaching the players has been testified by how they've played, but from what the players are saying as well, that they feel that they've improved immensely under his knowledge and his know-how of getting the best out of a group of players and his technical and tactical decisions that he's had to do as well. And as I mentioned earlier, I think he'll have learned his lesson as well from certain situations last year that maybe he's had to change. But when you look at him away from football, he's so humble. You see him walking to the training ground, he's around the shops in his local supermarket, and he's stopping for having pictures with everybody. He's got no airs and graces about him. Even when you saw the presentation last night, he was wanted to be in the background. He didn't really want to be at the front lifting the trophy. Well, believe me, if I'd been there, I'd have been lifting that trophy. Many, many other managers up and down the country would have been. But that's just how he is. He puts his players first before himself. And that's obviously how he's always been. And that's the respect that he's got throughout the worldwide game.
Yeah, you touched on some of the players as well in Jack Harrison and Ben White. But out of the entire squad, who's impressed you the most in terms of the individual players as well?
Well, I think they will use it as a collective promotion, that they've done it as a team. And there'll be a lot of unsung heroes, really. Stuart Dallas played nearly every game, different position. Klitsch started every game apart from the Derby game. Liam Cooper been fantastic captaining the team. When they've had a couple of bad results, he's had to pick players up, deal with the pressure of being the captain of Leeds United. But I think you've got to look at Hernandez and Phillips as well, to be fair. Calvin just gives them that protection in front of the back four, his range of passing, breaking up the play. You need people like that in your team if you're going to be successful. And then on the top end of the pitch, you want people that can score your goals, create goals, pick a pass, and get so many assists. And Pablo Hernandez is just up there with one of the best players that has been in the Championship for a number of years now, because he's heavily involved, if anything, of everything that is good when Leeds are playing.
I know, obviously, you have slightly different approaches in terms of your managerial style to Marcelo Bielsa, but did you see any similarities between the team in terms of the characteristics that got you promoted 10 years ago to the team that we see now?
I think the team that we had back then was a team that liked to go forward, entertain and score goals. And we had some talented players like Snodgrass, Gradle, Becchio, Howson, Beckford. We had some talented players. And I think Leeds at the top end of the pitch have been very good in that respect as well. I think when you look at them, they have got that spirit amongst them, that they've got this camaraderie that they're going to say, right, we're going to go through bad times, but when we have a bad time, we need to come out the other side, because we've got this big city and this big football club resting on our shoulders. And a lot of people will be hugely disappointed if we don't manage to achieve what they're wanting us to achieve. So having that spirit amongst themselves, resilience, as I mentioned earlier, but also the responsibility can sometimes wear players down, but it hasn't done with this group as it didn't with mine.
And you said about, obviously, in terms of it's a magnificent achievement what they have achieved this season, but what do they have to do now to stay in the Premier League? Because obviously that's the biggest challenge the club have got.
Well, I think any club getting promoted into the Premier League, first and foremost, will be just desperate to stay in, however. But you're not talking really about a normal club. There will be huge expectancy levels as well from the supporters, that they'll want to go and try and do what Wolves did in their first year, what Sheffield United have done recently. But it's not that easy. I think when you look at how they will operate as a club, yes, I do think there'll be signings without a shadow of doubt, but they won't be going out and spending 130 million like Aston Villa and totally revamping the squad. I think Bielsa likes to have a group of players that he knows and they know how he works, but also add along new, better quality. Probably need a couple of players at the top end of the pitch, depending on what's going to happen with Ben White as well. That's going to be another key area for them. So recruitment is going to be a big thing this summer, but I'm sure they'll have a host of players and agents that will be desperate to go to Leeds United in the Premier League. And
finally, for you personally, though, how does it feel, as I mentioned, to have played your part in the club's journey back to the Premier League? If your team didn't do what they did 10 years ago, they may not be where they are today.
Yeah, it's been nice over the weekend when I was in Leeds. People are saying that to me and on social media that we played a part because we started it. I just wish it hadn't been 10 years ago. And in a selfish way, it'd have been nice if I was being able to achieve that when I had the group of players at my disposal back then in 2010, 11, 12. So yeah, it's great that the club have now achieved it. They've got to just make sure that they carry on with what they're doing. And just going back to your point, yeah, I'm very proud that I've laid the foundations or set them on the way of getting back to the Premier League. Because there's still a lot of people at that football club that I know that have been working behind the scenes for many, many years. And a lot of the success goes down to them, not just the present group of players, but and the ownership, but people at the ground staff, to the ladies in the canteen and people like that. They deserve it just as much as others.
Well, Simon, well, congratulations on playing your part, and thanks again for joining us.
No worries.
Well, that's it from me this week. An astonishing week. We'll be back for the playoffs soon, though. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it.